Anthony Gordon shines for England. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of feel like this international break has been a little bit positive for Newcastle. You've had Nick Woltemade getting his first goal for Germany. You've had Bruno getting 2 assists for Brazil. So I'm kind of sitting there thinking, our players are getting a bit of rhythm. Our players are performing on the international stage. This can only be a positive, building momentum for Brighton on the weekend. So in this video, I do want to talk about Anthony Gordon because I can't lie, I loved his performance last night. And it's exactly what I want to see for Newcastle. And then we'll talk about the good and the bad and the ugly of this international break, Anthony Elanga's outburst, and then 2 potential transfers Newcastle United could be looking at. And I wasn't going to do any youngsters in this video, but it kind of goes down well and I think people enjoy them, so why not carry them on? Tomorrow we've got a preview coming out for Brighton, so make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. Do you know what? Let's start with the positive. I do want to start with Anthony Gordon because he shines for England. He opened the scoring, got man of the match, and I genuinely think it was a brilliant performance. And this is the sort of performance I want to see from Anthony Gordon. Every touch had purpose. Everything had intent. He was pressing off the ball. He was moving. He was sharp. He was making good decisions, but he was being decisive. I hate a winger or a player that is hesitant. Be decisive, even if it doesn't come off. Try again. And that is exactly what Anthony Gordon did for England last night. What you got to do when you come up against a team like Lavia, somebody that will be hard to beat, will be compact, try and close the space. You need to move the ball quickly. You need to play off your first touch. That is exactly what Anthony Gordon was doing yesterday. He was getting on the ball. He was being bright, positive. He was being direct. He was making things happen. And that is exactly what I want to see from Anthony Gordon in Newcastle United. And how well did he take his goal? How often have I spoken about keeping the pitch big, using the space to your advantage, create space for yourself? But do you know what I loved about it? The triggers. As soon as a midfielder or a defender picks a ball up in space, are you looking to run in behind? Are you giving them an option in possession? If Anthony Gordon doesn't make that run, John Stones doesn't make the pass. And sometimes in football, the run dictates the pass. The movement dictates the pass. And I loved that from Anthony Gordon. And like I say, not everything came off for him, but that's okay. As long as the intent, the decision making is there, eventually it will click. We're starting to see that with Anthony Gordon. Am I trying to say he's the best winger in the world? No. Am I trying to say he can have a massive impact on England and Newcastle? Probably. But even the words from Thomas Tuchel kind of backs up what I say about Anthony Gordon's biggest strengths: being direct, taking risks. If that risk doesn't come off, it's okay. You go again. Because even Thomas Tuchel said, I think it was a very good performance. I think Anthony deserves to stay in the team. He is a direct player. I think his biggest strength to go direct and go again and again. That is all I want from Anthony Gordon. Are you trying to get on the ball and make things happen? And then he went on to say, to have this repetition in his intensity, he just collects high intensity runs. He collects meters in sprints. And this is so good. It's important to know his strengths and plays exactly to his strengths. Now we play a high press and he's important against the ball. And how often have I spoke about being good against the ball? If you're good against the ball, your team is an absolute nightmare for the opposition. And this is probably Eddie Howe's strongest asset. Getting his team good against the ball, setting pressing triggers, pressing from the front, being aggressive. And I love that, man. I absolutely love it. So yeah, it was a top performance from Anthony Gordon. And I feel he's made that position his own. It's his position to lose now. This is why I think it also delves in Newcastle United, because now he needs to build momentum. He needs to perform for Newcastle in order to make sure he's on that plane. Because if he's not on that plane to the World Cup, unless he gets injured, he's only got himself to blame. Now, I know you're probably sitting there saying, it's only Lavia, man. What are you talking about, Antonio? Well, I understand that. Yes, it's only Lavia, and in reality, we're expected to win those games. But what I'm talking about is the intent, making the right decisions, not taking that extra touch, moving the ball quicker than you would, moving off the ball, trying to get in behind, stretching the pitch when you need to. Just those little decisions have an impact on the game. So it's not all about the opposition. I was mainly impressed by his actions with and without the ball. To be fair, England dominated the game. I thought Elliot Anderson once again, man. I would love to see him back at St. James's Park. But it has been quite a successful international break for Newcastle. Anthony Gordon looked really bright for England. Bruno getting 2 assists in 2 games for Brazil. Nick Woltemade bagging his first senior goal for Germany. Sandro Tonali just being the standout player for Italy. Anthony Elanga struggling for Sweden, but let's be brutally honest, who isn't struggling for Sweden? And then on the flip side of that, You've had Sven Botman, Malik Chow, and the rest of the Newcastle United squad having some time off, getting some downtime. That is important in football. So all of this, when you got players collecting rhythm, players having some downtime, just builds momentum going into Brighton on Saturday. Let's be honest, there's been a couple of players that haven't really stood out or got going this international break. Joelinton being one of them, and I've seen a lot of reports from Brazil saying he's not good enough for that level. And I'm going to be honest about Joelinton. You've got to think he's getting close to that age. And I'm going to be honest, I don't feel he really suits the Brazilian squad. It doesn't really suit the way they play. And it's looking very likely that he won't be going to the World Cup, and that's me being brutally honest. But you never know. Ancelotti might just think, you know what, if we need to see out a game or just get some presence or some physicality in the middle of the pitch, Joelinton could be his guy. But there's also Anthony Elanga. Now, Sweden are having an absolute shocker. The bottom of Group B and just don't, unless it's a miracle, don't look like they're going to qualify. But Anthony Elanga had a little bit outburst after the game and he said, the fucking system has to go. For me personally, I don't mind these sorts of outbursts. I don't mind players showing frustration, especially when they get beat 1-0 at home at Kosovo. And to be honest, if you're losing a game like that, do you really deserve to go to the World Cup? Probably not. But look, it's unfortunate. Would I like him to be this frustrated? No. Do I want to see him happy, smiling, because he's able to express himself? Absolutely. But I'm just hoping he doesn't bring this frustration back in the camp in Newcastle. I'm going to be honest, I don't really care what happens at Sweden. As long as he's prepared and ready to play well for Newcastle United, that's all that matters. And now we're going to move on to some scout reports. Now, this one, it's difficult doing scout reports for Newcastle United. And I'll tell you why, because I don't believe Eddie Howe wants players without experience. I could sit here for days on end telling you about some players in youth academies that are going to break through over the next couple of years. But I genuinely believe that when Eddie Howe wants a player, he wants players that have already played at senior football. For argument's sake, as an example, do I see Eddie Howe doing what Como did with Nico Paz and bringing him straight out of the academy? Yes, he played a couple of times for Real Madrid, but didn't really play much. No, I for some reason, I just don't. So I've only got a little selection of players that I can choose from that have played some senior football, but are still young. And I also believe that Eddie Howe likes players that can play in different systems and different roles. And that's why I've selected Alexis Vossah, again from Toulouse, one of the most underrated academies in Europe. Remember that. 17 years old. Now, I actually think this guy's going to have a breakthrough season over the next 2 years. He joined the Toulouse Academy at the age of 14, progressed through the ranks, captained the youth academy, and he's also a French international youth player. What's his position? Where's he play? What's he like to do on the ball? Is he good on the ball? Is he good off the ball? Well, he's a centre midfielder. He can anchor the midfield. He can operate as a number 8, so he can play as a number 6 or a number 8. He's played in a midfield 3. He's played in a double pivot, but he can also play at centre back. So what's his style of play? He sniffs danger out extremely well with strong tackling and interceptions instincts. He's smart with his positioning to prevent transitions, but he also shows glimpses of vertical progression, especially under pressure. So what are his key traits? These are the two that stand out to me. Ball winning instincts, strong tackling and interceptions, probably his biggest asset. Now, this is an instinct which I love because it shows that he understands a game. He reads danger early, often dropping in areas to cover space for advanced teammates. I think we love a player like this. Joelinton, when he's at his best, always covers for the left back. I think if you've got a player that is very like an unsung hero that is comfortable stepping into different spaces to cover for teammates, it allows you to defend transitions so much better. And honestly, when I watch him, his tactical maturity is outstanding, doing those little things that really go unnoticed on a football pitch. Okay, Tino, you want to bomb forward, you want to overlap, I'll cover for you. Okay, Lewis Hall, you want to get forward, you go and express yourself, I'll cover for you. Just those little things. If a centre-back steps into midfield, okay, I'll step in the back line. His tactical awareness is very, very good just for somebody that's 17 with not much experience. And this is why I think Toulouse have one of the most underrated academies, because every single player that seems to come out their academy understands a game. And when you've got a player that understands a game, allows him to just play what the game needs. Do I need to cover? Do I need to sit? Or can I get forward? Just understanding the rhythm, the tempo of the game in that moment. Now, he's also left-footed. We don't even have a left-footed midfielder or forward in our squad. So that'll just give us a nice balance as well. But he's extremely comfortable using his right foot as well. And I think that's important, especially when you're playing in midfield. Now, what I also like about him, especially in possession, he can act as a reset player. Do you know sometimes when the game's just very chaotic and you just need somebody just to reshuffle it and reorganize it and reorientate it, he can do that. He's got that ability just to receive possession and just slow the game down to your pace. Sometimes that's a bad thing, but sometimes it's a good thing and very much needed. I spoke before about playing what the game needs, and that's a quality I think every team needs, because sometimes in games you are just against it and you just need somebody just to take the pressure off for 5 minutes and just allow you to reset, and he has that quality. Now, he's also an active dueler. He's not explosive. It's quite measured. He picks his moments when to engage, which I really like in a midfielder. And when it comes to passing range, it's still development. It's not quite at the standard I would like, but it's definitely improving. He's quite a safe passer, somebody that will move the ball side to side. I want him to be a little bit more of a line breaker, taking risks at the right time. Now, he's only played a handful of games in senior football, so it's there's no statistics to show you. But in my opinion, what role could he play? I think he's super comfortable in a double pivot, but he's also super comfortable in a three-man midfield. In a double pivot, he would be the guy that anchors the midfield, somebody that just screens that back line. That would allow Bruno to get a little bit more advanced. That would allow Sandro Tonali to get a little bit more advanced. Now, when it comes to the three-man midfield, I think he couldn't play the Bruno role because he doesn't have that mindset, that creativity, but he could undoubtedly play the Joe Linton role or the Sandro role. But these are the types of players I would love to see us bring in into our squad. I'm not saying all the time because I genuinely believe that you need experience with you. But from what I've seen, and if injuries don't prevent it, under Eddie Howe's coaching, he could be Champions League quality. But there's so many players like that that I would love to talk about on these videos. I've actually, at the minute, I'm going through a phase where I'm talking and speaking and scouting about loads of players in Scandinavian countries. And that's my little thing at the minute. However, the last guy is not from Scandinavia, but this is somebody I wanted Newcastle United to sign last summer just for 20 million. He moved to RB Leipzig, and if you don't believe it, go and check me tweets because I was speaking about this guy when he was at Leganes. He joined Leganes in 2024. He played 3 games for their B team and then put him straight in the senior team, and he absolutely thrived. That is why RB Leipzig have spent 20 million on him, and that is Ivorian Yan Diomandé, 18 years old, and he stands at 5'11". So what's his role? What's he like to do? What's his profile like? Well, he's a left winger, but he's capable on the right wing, but he's also capable of playing as a wing back. His style of play, he's a right-footed inverted winger. He excels in one-on-one situations, using quick directional shifts and feints to beat defenders. His dribbling is direct and aggressive, and he often targeting the inside channels to create shooting angles, and he's a big transitional threat. Some of his key traits, we need to talk about his speed and his profile, because the power, the speed, the athleticism on this guy is crazy for 18. Like, he's got a crazy profile. He's explosive, he's dynamic, he's direct, he's transitional, he's got rapid acceleration, he's got a sharp change of direction, but he can also dribble while he's doing all that. He's got that ability to dribble at top speed, which makes him a nightmare for defenders. What I really like about him, I spoke earlier about players stretching the pitch just to create space for other teammates. He loves hogging that touchline. He wants to receive the ball, and that allows him to pin up his man and isolate his man. He doesn't mind being isolated on that left wing. In fact, he loves being isolated on that left wing, because if he gets in a one-on-one situation, he's got the capabilities of beating anybody. Now, again, I must admit, it doesn't always come off for him, but the intent is always there, which I love. So he's got that pace and timing to be a natural outlet in transition moments, whether that be with the ball at his feet, which he's comfortable doing. You often see him dropping deep, receiving the ball, trying to progress his team into the final third, or you see him being that outlet where he's running in behind. But one of my favorite things about him is his mindset. And in every single interview I've seen him in, he often speaks about working hard for the team. He does just as much defensively as he does in the attacking sense. Remember at the start of the video, I was talking about Anthony Gordon pressing from the front, being aggressive. That is exactly what Yan Diomandé does. Now, he's played in multiple different roles, in Leganes, they play with a 4-4-2. He was their left winger and a 4-4-2. But at RB Leipzig, they play with a 4-2-3-1. He's a left winger and that 3. But on the odd occasion, Leganes played with a back 5 and he was the wing back. So he brings that tactical flexibility. Now, when I talk about him being direct, it's insane. Because if you look at his statistics, he's sitting in the top 1 percentile for midfielders in Europe for progressive carry distance, progressive carries. He's averaging 7.27 progressive carries per 90, which is phenomenal. Carries in the final third, carries in the penalty area, successful take-ons, touches in the opposition box. He's also sitting in the top 1 percentile for goal creating actions, as well as the top 7 percentile for shot creating actions. So when it comes to numbers, if you are a numbers guy, his numbers are off the scale for somebody that hasn't played much senior football. Like, not many players are averaging over 7 progressive carries per 90. But it gets even better. I spoke about his importance to do all the defensive work and pressing from the front. He's sitting in the top 1 percentile for ball recoveries per 90, as well as blocks, passes blocked, interceptions, and tackles. I get the impression that Eddie Howe wants a well-rounded winger. Somebody that is quick, sharp, decisive, aggressive, direct, but also does his defensive work, will also press from the front. And that's why I think this sort of profile would fit our system. In previous videos, I've spoke about Harvey Barnes being our only valuable asset that we can sell if it's not a player from our starting 11. So when I think of Yan Diomandé, RB Leipzig have just bought him. So the realistic chance of getting him is probably slim right now, but maybe in a couple of years we can. But they've also got Antonio Nusa. Now, I believe Antonio Nusa is too good to be sitting on the bench, but I also believe that Yan Diomandé is too good to be sitting on the bench. So RB Leipzig have a decision to make. So if we can't get Yan Diomandé, let's go and get Antonio Nusa, because one of them, if they're not playing, will want to move. So if we quickly look at these statistics, here's how they show. And as you can see, when he's got the ball at his feet in terms of progressive carries, not many players are stopping him. The athleticism on the boy is a joke. When it comes to Diomandé, I would say decision making in the final third. He needs to improve his composure a little bit. Sometimes he does snap at chances. When he's finishing, he's best with instincts rather than when he's had to have to think about it. But also predictability in possession. I spoke about him being an inverted winger, somebody that wants to cut inside onto his right foot. Because he's got the athleticism, I would like to see him go on the outside a little bit more. But look, guys, there's 2 other players that for you might not have heard of, you might have heard of, but I genuinely think that we should be looking at for the future. Now, we've already got Park and we've already got Cordero, which 2 players that I am excited about. But I don't know, man. I want to hear your thoughts, because your thoughts are more important than mine. Let us know about Anthony Gordon, Anthony Elanga, the international break, what you made of it, but more importantly, what do you make of these 2 players? But as always, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, away the lads.